It's the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
If the Los Angeles Lakers were given a do-over, if they could go back in time to the 2017 NBA draft, would they take Lonzo Ball again with the second pick? Because I'm here to tell you, I think the answer is no. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hanging out again all day today with Major League Baseball, former Major League Baseball star Mark Teixeira. What's up, man?
I'm good, man. We got a great show today.
We do.
I am pumped.
We got Champions League soccer on all the TVs across the room. We got the jump.
We got stuff going all over the place.
We do. And we're not forcing it to say we start the day with LaVar Ball. Now listen, you can get mad. You can say, I don't talk about. I'm here to tell you, this is a big deal. In the words of our former Vice President Joe Biden, this is a big effing deal. LaVar Ball is out here affecting the outcomes, perhaps the future of the biggest franchise in the NBA, the most well-known brand in the NBA, and it is a story. It's a story that trickles down to the future, I think, of LeBron James and the past of Magic Johnson. Would he, as I pointed out, if he could go back in time, would he take Lonzo Ball with that second pick? It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And here's why I ask you that, Mark. Because LaVar Ball told a Lithuanian reporter this yesterday. I want all three of my boys to play for the Lakers. But if that does not happen, I'm going to tell you the story of what's going to happen first. If they don't take Jello this year, that's the second son, I bring Jello back here to Lithuania to play with Melo for 2 years. Lonzo will be on his third year, and I will let every NBA team know that Lonzo is not going to re-sign with the Lakers. But we'll go to any team that will take all three of my boys. That's my plan. If he cannot get all three boys on the Lakers, he'll take Lonzo away from the Lakers.
Well, this is insane, first of all. And I understand when people talk about, why does ESPN always talk about LaVar Ball? Let's not talk about LaVar right now. Let's answer your first question.
Okay.
Would the Lakers take Lonzo? No. Absolutely not. And there's a few reasons. One is because LaVar is insane, and it's a distraction. I don't care what anyone says. When you have these type of outside distractions, it is not good for a team. Okay? I feel bad for Lonzo Ball having to answer for his father. That's besides the point. The main point is there are better rookies out there than Lonzo Ball. There are many, many other guys that I would take. Donovan Mitchell is the best player from that draft class. Now, Ben Simmons, you can talk about him being the best rookie, maybe. He was drafted a year earlier. He got hurt. So, there's 5 or 10 guys that might be better than Lonzo Ball now and for the future. And you think this is going to get better? You think this whole situation with Lonzo and LaVar and all the stuff that's happening is going to get better? So if he's the 5 to 10 best rookie now, what's this draft going to look like in 2 or 3 years? I don't like the situation. I don't think Lonzo was the right pick when they picked him, and he's definitely not the right pick now.
I agree. If Magic Johnson could go back in time and revisit that draft, he would not take Lonzo Ball with the second overall pick. But I don't think, Mark, there are 5 to 10 rookies who are better than Lonzo Ball from a pure basketball perspective. There are a couple, as you pointed out. Donovan Mitchell at this point, if they did a redraft and made everything equal, he'd go number 1 overall. Donovan Mitchell has been absolutely phenomenal for the Utah Jazz. He's averaging 20 points a game. And there's probably, maybe 2 other guys like that. Lauri Markkanen in Chicago is amazing. What is he? I think he's like at 17 points a game, 7 rebounds, something like that. So on pure basketball, those guys would go ahead of Lonzo for what's happening on the court. But then there's this buffer zone of, I'm going to say 3 to 4 guys who, from a basketball perspective, are in the same range as Lonzo Ball. Lonzo's at 10, 7, and 7. 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 10 points a game. His shooting percentages aren't very good, but I still believe in Lonzo as a basketball player. I've said from day one, the way this guy sees the floor, his court vision and genius and distribution of the ball is a rarity with a ceiling through. What did Jordan say? The ceiling is through the roof? The ceiling is the roof.
That doesn't make any sense.
The ceiling is the roof.
I don't even know what that means.
His ceiling. But so what I'm saying to you, Mark, is this: there's a range of guys like Dennis Smith Jr., De'Aaron Fox, who might not yet be the player that Lonzo Ball is, but you're paying a LaVar Ball tax on Lonzo Ball. And that LaVar Ball tax is going to make me want guys who may not be quite the ball player that Lonzo is, but I'll take them anyway because I don't deal with this nonsense.
Yeah, and you're not going to get argument on the tax. I am going to argue about the ceiling of Lonzo. This is why, because in the NBA, you have to be able to score. Now, if he becomes a guy that all of a sudden can shoot the three and score off the dribble and kind of be that guy that can take over a game, score 30 when he wants to, then yeah, he's worth that number 2 pick and he's worth building a franchise around. But when I look at a team and he has to pass the ball for you to win and he has to be the creator for you to win, now I know you need other players around him. So he is not going to be a Steph Curry, a LeBron James, one of those type of players that when I have the ball in my hand, I can take over myself.
No,
that's why I think at the number 2 pick, man, you've got to be a franchise changer, and he is not to me a franchise changer.
Was Jason Kidd a franchise changer?
I think Jason Kidd is a better basketball player than Lonzo Ball. Absolutely.
And you're right. I mean, but you can't have like Jason Kidd Hall of Famer and I only get Lonzo Ball in his rookie year. My argument to you would be
Jason Kidd had it though. He had all the intangibles. When you looked at that kid and you go, man, you see what I did there? Kid. When you looked at him coming up, you said, man, he has everything. He's got the charisma. He can score when he wants to, but if he wants to pass and he wants to create, he gets double teamed, he can do that. I saw Lonzo Ball play last year, and I am not an NBA expert, quote unquote, but he couldn't shoot. I watched a couple games that UCLA played that he needed to score, and he couldn't shoot. That's a problem for me. That's a problem. If you can't shoot in the NBA, that's an issue.
Well, Jason Kidd couldn't shoot for a long time as well. I'm not saying Lonzo is Jason Kidd, but instead of me trying to argue that he's going to be the guys you pointed out, Steph Curry, LeBron James, he's never going to be that. But the guy I think he can become as a basketball player is a Jason Kidd type. Work through his shooting, become a better shooter, learn how to shoot the three at higher percentages, and that's going to open up his entire game. Now, hold on. Let's set aside the redo for a moment because we're playing a hypothetical if you can go back in time. But there are some that are saying, well, let's just play this forward like Stephen A. Smith this morning on First Take.
If I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm thinking about moving Lonzo Ball. Not this season, of course. But if this young man don't learn to step up and handle his business and do whatever he can to distance himself from his daddy's comments publicly, particularly if I'm one of those players in uniform, I've got a raised eyebrow and I'm looking at Lonzo like, well, you going home and talking to your daddy about us? What exactly is it that you saying? Because I want to know. And if, by the way, your comments don't vibe with what he's saying, you that damn scared that you can't sit up there and say, that's my dad, that has nothing to do with what I feel. You can't do that? I need to hear that coming from you.
Amen, Stephen A.
Trade him?
Amen. Absolutely. If you can get anything for him, who's going to take him for, quote, the value that you think he should be or the value that you want him to be? So if you want him to be a franchise cornerstone, who's going to give you the draft picks or the other great players to in equal value right now? No, I don't think anybody is, right?
Well, but you're not going to get that price tag. The LaVar Ball tax on his trade value applies as well.
So this is where I have I feel so bad for I'm rooting for the kid. I feel so bad for him because again, this is not getting better. This situation, it is an abusive relationship with his father. His father is putting him in some terrible positions with his teammates, with the media, with his organization, with his brothers, with everybody else that surrounds this kid's life. It was so tough for me as a top pick to be a rookie in professional sports. It is so difficult. And I had a loving father and mother that just kind of stayed out of the way, and I had a great support team, and everything was easy off the field for me. Everything was easy. Everything is difficult off the court for this kid, and that's why I feel bad for him, and that's why I don't know if he's going to get that much better, if he's going to be able to reach his potential.
That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. A little bit later, we'll talk about whether or not the LaVar Ball tax could actually end up costing the Lakers LeBron James. But straight ahead, people are really mad at Steve Kerr for letting his players coach the team last night, including some people here at ESPN. Tex and I will take a look at that straight ahead because what's the big deal? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Man, everybody's getting sensitive. Just never. We all know you can't offend anybody these days. Don't dare offend anybody. Go forward best you can with never saying anything or do anything that could possibly ever offend anybody. Do that, and you'll still lose. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Steve Kerr, Tex, last night hanging out with Mark Teixeira all day on the show today on the Will Cain Show. Steve Kerr apparently has offended everybody somehow because last night during their game, the Golden State Warriors game against the Phoenix Suns, he decided to let his players coach the game. Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green took turns. Who else? Somebody else took turns. It was a three-man rotation. Took turns coaching the team, drawing up plays on the clipboard, so forth. Kerr and the coaching staff just stepped aside and let the guys do it. And apparently that's been internalized today as some big act of disrespect, which Kerr is saying, look, man, it's not what I'm trying to do here.
I told Jay afterwards, I said that, people may make a big deal of it and had nothing to do with being disrespectful. It had to do with me trying to reach my team. I have not reached them for the last month. They're tired of my voice. I'm tired of my voice. It's been a long haul these last few years, and I wasn't reaching them, and we just figured it was probably a good night to pull a trick out of the hat and do something different. I thought the players responded really well.
I love this. I thought Steve Kerr had every right to treat his team however he wants to treat them. I heard a lot of people talk about, hey, I got no problem with this because a coach needs to know what buttons to push. And when you lose by 40 points, whatever button is pushed on the other side is going to rattle some feathers. If Steve Kerr would have said, I'm keeping all my starters in this game because you guys aren't playing hard or something, and they would have won by 60 points, wouldn't that have been offensive? If Steve Kerr just said, you know what, I'm going to sit at the end of the bench, I'm going to let my assistant coach, would that have been offensive? I have no problem with this. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. I think in a long NBA season, when you have a grind like this, you got to mix it up sometimes. This is the best team on the planet. Mix it up. If he thought this could get these guys excited about playing again, why not?
Honestly, when I saw this, I'm like, Tex, it didn't even occur to me that this could somehow be seen as an act of disrespect. I didn't know that was a topic of conversation, but it was. And is this real? You never know.
You can never know with Stu Gatz. I don't think it is.
He's not alone.
This is fake outrage from a lot of people, though, because everything that happens in sports, I can take some sort of hot take and take a side and say, this is so offensive and this is that. Like,
yeah, but today, man,
easy guys.
You know what? I'm not going to call it fake because I'll be honest. Like every time I think that we've reached the outrage threshold or the you've insulted me threshold, somebody manages to push through and take us a little bit further. I'm not talking about being more offensive, but being more offended. Like the number of things, the extent to things of which are now injurious to people's sense of well-being is. I want to get a board. I want to get a whiteboard here for the Will Cain Show, and I'm going to keep a running list of things that are somehow inappropriate. So is Stu Gatz being real here? I don't know. You be the judge for yourself.
When you're JT and you're 18 and 40, of course that's the response you're going to give to reporters after the game. It was disrespectful. Steve Kerr, do your job. You want to impress me? Have Draymond Green, who wasn't even playing last night, have him call the plays and draw up the plays Game 7 Western Conference Finals against the Rockets. Then I'll be impressed. Exactly. He did it because it was against the Phoenix Suns. He should be ashamed of himself for doing it. No, Dan, if someone did that to a team that Steve Kerr was playing on or coaching against, he would be upset. I don't care what anyone says. It's disrespectful.
I don't think the goal was to impress Stu Gatz, by the way. Like, I don't think Kerr was going, watch this trick. This will impress him.
I love Stu Gatz, and I agree with him probably 80% of the time.
Really?
He's way off here.
You need to take a minute and go look in the mirror on that one.
He is way off here. I mean, you really think that this is akin to having Draymond Green, coach in Game 7? Come on. In football, teams take a knee all the time, right? Is that offensive? You are literally not even playing. Would it have been more offensive for Steve Kerr to say, hey, guys, we're beating them by 46. Don't go out there. Let him just run up and down and hit layups, and maybe it'll end up being 20 points. In football, you literally take a knee and don't play. You look across the side and say, you guys are so bad, I'm not even going to play anymore because I don't want to rub it in. I mean, this is silly. Let's move on.
I don't even know.
Steve Kerr, you're a stud. Steve Kerr, you're a stud. Keep doing what you're doing because this team is a great team, and I like the button that you pushed last night. If you're offended, too bad.
Yeah, I mean, is it disrespectful? I think the answer to that question for me would be, who cares? I mean, Steve Kerr's not trying to disrespect Jay Triano, the coach of the Phoenix Suns. If you took it as disrespectful, then you're being overly sensitive. The argument that you wouldn't do it against other teams, well, that's the Suns' problem. That's not the Warriors' problem. I'll take Kerr at his word that his voice had become white noise to his players, and as you pointed out, I think that's a reasonable thing to understand in an 82-game schedule. I mean, hell, you played 162 games.
Oh, my goodness.
Can't imagine how many guys you tuned out.
We probably had 20 games a year on the good or bad side, whether you're winning 10-1 in the 8th or 9th or losing 13-0 in the 9th, where you just kind of throw your hands up and be like, hey, Nick Swisher, you're pitching. My right fielder is pitching. Is that disrespectful to the other team? No, I need to save my bullpen, so I'm going to put a right fielder into pitch. And he looks silly doing it, but you have to do it, and you laugh about it. The reason that the Suns aren't laughing and the reason that people like Stugotz are making a big deal of it is because it's entertaining for Stu to say these type of things. It's content for his show. Let's be real here. It's content for the show. And the reason that some Suns fans and players are pissed is because they stink. And when I stink, I've been on teams that are bad before. We lost 90-plus games in Texas a few years. It was not fun. Nothing was fun. I was not a happy person. So every little thing that happened pissed me off. So this, of course it's going to piss you off when something like this happens because you stink and you got your butt kicked.
Mark Teixeira off the top rope, hitting both the Phoenix Suns and Stugotz on the way down.
It's 3:25, and I'm hot right now.
Whoa, look at you.
Hot.
All right, Mark Teixeira is hot.
Here we go.
Tweet the show through the 100flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Guys, as I said, there's only one day left until Valentine's. You got it squared away, Tex?
I'm all set.
All right, if you're still looking, though, for the perfect gift, 100flowers.com is here for you with beautiful bouquets starting at just $29.99. To order, go to 1-800-flowers.com/ESPN. 888-729-3776. Was that really disrespectful? Is there anyone that can argue that side of the equation? Plus, Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, talk about those last days in Cleveland and what was holding everybody back. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hanging out with Mark Teixeira all day today. Got this on Twitter from Ethan Lax. He says, forget about disrespect to the other team. More significant is Steve Kerr proving how little a coach matters in basketball. My 90-year-old mother could coach the Warriors, and they would still beat Phoenix. Does that illustrate how little coaching matters in basketball?
No. When you're up 45 points, you don't need a coach. Yes, that is true. But coaching is not, in the NBA, in any sport, it's not always what happens on the field, on the court. It's how to handle guys in the locker room. Is when there are issues with humans, highly paid athletes, superstars, there are issues, you smooth them out. And you smooth them out because, hey, guys, I get it. I understand what's going on here. But what's best for the team? That's why a guy like Phil Jackson was so good with all these great stars around Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, is because you had a lot of egos in a locker room, and he knew how to smooth things out. It wasn't his X's and O's on the court, because when the game's on the line, guess what the play is? Give it to Jordan. It's a lot more than what happens on the court.
Is that how it was in baseball as well?
Baseball's even more in the clubhouse. You could literally in baseball draw up a program, plug it into your computer, and then when that situation happens during the game, the computer will spit out what to do. Okay, after 104 pitches, when the righty's out of the game, bring in the lefty to face the big slugger because he's only hitting 130 off him. That's a computer program. To me, a manager is way more important in the clubhouse, off the field, when a young player's going through a slump, or when a team goes through a 5 or 6 game losing streak, or when something bad is happening in the media. That's when the manager comes together and gets his guys back on track.
You've mentioned this twice now. You brought it up when we were talking about LaVar Ball and how distractions can be real. You were on I mean, you were on, I just mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers are the most famous franchise in the NBA. You were on the most famous franchise in baseball history, the New York Yankees. What was the biggest distraction or media invention or problem, like we've alluded to with LaVar Ball, that a manager had to help you guys work through?
It was always, and it happened every year multiple times, it was always block out the noise, focus on your job on the field. Because in New York, there was tons of noise. And it was great when you're playing well because there's 100. When you hit a game-winning home run, there's 100 guys by your locker or in the media room doing a press conference saying, hey, Tex, tell me about that home run. And it's great. When things aren't going well, there's 100 guys putting a microphone and a camera in front of your face saying, why do you stink? Why is this going on? So it was always about high or low, good or bad. Forget about the noise. Concentrate on the next pitch, the next game, the next at bat.
Yeah, but what did this ever happen with you guys? And my memory's not gonna serve me on the different interpersonal dramas of the New York Yankees in the mid to late 2000s. But we started the show today talking about the problem and the tax that LaVar Ball puts on Lonzo Ball, and you said it as well. You're like, you feel bad for Lonzo Ball because of the problems LaVar's creating for him. Well, I think he's creating problems for the Lakers. First of all, in the LeBron James hunt. But aside from that, and I said this when Lonzo was drafted, he's going to create problems for Lonzo in the locker room amongst teammates when he's saying Lonzo's better than this guy and I'm better than that guy and this guy can't play and coach should have made he's going to make the men in that locker room start to turn and look at Lonzo and have locker room problems.
Yes.
Did you have moments like that as a Yankee where, I don't know, the outside world, Tex, the media distraction is actually really about two guys in that locker room and they're going to have to reconcile something amongst themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that we always had to deal with, I mean, just really in this generation was when your teammate gets in trouble. And we had teammates get in trouble for steroids, for off-the-field type stuff. And you don't want to throw your teammate under the bus, but you also have to let people know what they did isn't right.
What was the biggest one you had to deal with?
Oh, I mean, easily. It's Al, of course.
And every day that's in front of you.
And we loved Alex. And you know what? To Alex's credit, he stood up and said 2 different times, I'm sorry. I did it, blah, 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 blah. We answered for a couple weeks, maybe a month, but when he came back into the clubhouse, it was mea culpa. He goes, guys, I'm sorry that you have to answer for me. He didn't run from it. So the question with Lonzo Ball is, does he go into that clubhouse, into that locker room and say, hey guys, I'm sorry, you're having to answer for my father? I don't know if that's happening.
That was a good tweet from Ethan, by the way. So he just launched us onto a whole different conversation. So good job, Ethan. Let's give him a 100flowers.com gift card. DM him. That came in on the 100flowers.com Twitter feed. Set him up, Cerruti, if you can. DM him a gift card to 1-800-Flowers. Brian in Ithaca, you're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Brian?
What's going on? Hey, what's up, Tex? You too.
Can you hear him, Tex? He's plugging in. Hold on, Brian. He's complimenting you. He said, what's up? I think he's a fan.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm sorry I wasn't plugged in.
Nah, you're a professional. This is a radio show.
Hey.
What you got, Brian?
Well, just calling in because A, there's no more eclipses, so you don't have to worry about those. But B, I don't know if you remember when the 30 for 30 with Jimmy Johnson was coaching Miami and they were running over everybody. And there's a quote from Dan Le Batard where he said Jimmy Johnson would literally coach with double middle fingers extended. And it was kind of like his point was, and there's Jimmy Johnson actually saying, I can only control how well my team plays. I need to push the buttons for them. And there's no point in me caring about what's going on over there. And if they stink, it's not really big boy football or big boy anything. He's sitting there worrying about how all they're doing and everything else. You kind of got to just take care of your team. So if Steve Kerr needs to push a button to get his team going, then that shouldn't really be the other team's concern. Just try to win the game. Yeah, thanks for the call, Brian. And I fundamentally just think it's different than hanging, what's the famous saying in football? They hung, is it Barry Switzer? They hung half 100 on him. It's not like what they were doing was intentionally running up the score. He's trying to find new ways to motivate his team. I don't think he's scoreboarding them, housing them, going, you know what, we don't even need a coach. Watch this. Let's let Draymond run this thing for a little while. I don't think that's what he's doing. He's looking for new ways to motivate the best team on the planet. Yeah, and we do this all the time in sports, is that we don't know what's happening in the clubhouse, in the locker room.
You never know when a team needs something like this. You never know when a team needs to have their manager, dress up like a clown and take batting practice with the club. Like, there are certain things that Joe Madden does that people don't like in baseball. There are certain things, maybe on a completely different side that Bill Belichick does in football that people don't like. There are certain things that Steve Kerr is going to do during his career that other coaches, other teams, other fans aren't going to like. Too bad. He's trying to win a championship. This is what he thought was the best thing for his team.
Mark's been hanging out with us all day today, all day yesterday. And yesterday on our show, Teixeira said this line, which I don't have the sound of, so I'm going to repeat it to you. He said, when you were a rookie in baseball, you saw guys doing steroids in the locker room. You saw it being done, and a guy turned to you and said, hey, Tex, you're never going to make it in this league on milk and cookies. I want to ask you about that story and more straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is Will Cain.
Look, one of two things is true. Either I'm a moron surrounded by geniuses.
Can't get enough Will Cain.
Or I'm a genius surrounded by morons.
Don't worry. More coming up.
Getting hit up all during the commercial break, and they're talking to my producers and show them a picture of Mark Teixeira at a Syracuse basketball game a few years ago where he's got some, first of all, Tex, by the way, Tex is here hanging out all day on the show yesterday and today on the Will Cain Show on the ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. You're drinking some kind of beer, right? It's nice.
It was a beer.
It's a good colored beer. It looks like a Bud Light, Miller Lite in that vein.
Light.
And you basically have like Christopher Penn from Reservoir Dogs sitting next to you. Wasn't that his name? Christopher Penn?
Yeah.
Yes. Guys, do
we have that picture? Can we put it up? Is that possible with modern technology? I got blown up. My cell phone got blown up. Like, who is this guy? Some website, I won't name the website.
It's Barstool Sports. Why won't you name it?
I thought you weren't allowed to say that word.
No, it's not Voldemort.
ESPN. Great movies, by the way. My kids love Harry Potter. I digress. So I get blown up, and Barstool says, and I quote, "Who is Mark Teixeira's Jewish consigliere at the Cuse game?" And so I'm with about 8 guys. We had a bunch of guys go from Westchester Airport to Syracuse to watch Indiana play Syracuse. Syracuse blew them out. But we had a great time. But one of the guys in our group, his name is Mark. I won't say his last name. His name is Mark as well. But he showed up with like 4 buttons open. And it's like 14 degrees. It's Syracuse in December.
Let me paint a picture for the radio audience.
Oh, my gosh.
I'd say Mark, not Mark Teixeira, but Mark.
The other Mark.
Consigliere is probably 250.
He's a big man.
250.
He's a big man.
He's going button down to about the belly button.
Yep.
Maybe one button up from the belly button.
Yep.
He's got a long gold chain on with the Star of David hanging around mid-nipple. He's got reddish hair combed, swept straight back. And he's got the look of, I just beat somebody with a 2x4 in his eyes. I mean, he looks like Christopher Penn in Reservoir Dogs. He's wearing a tracksuit, by the way, as well. He looks like Long Island turned into a guy. Like Long Island got distilled, poured through a filter, and turned into a human being.
So the funny thing is, we got to get that picture too, but the funny thing is that after all of this blew up and people are just emailing back and forth and text messages, we got stuff going all over the place. Mark emailed the whole group, so all 8 of us, and said, "I'm wearing turtlenecks from now on." He was so embarrassed. And we're like, dude, you didn't look in the mirror? You knew you were going to the Cuse game on ESPN with Tex. You didn't look into the mirror and say, I need to step up my game because there's a small chance that I'm going to be on camera today. Anyway.
All right, man. Again, Mark Teixeira hanging out on the show on the Will Cain Show all day today. You said this yesterday. The subject of cheating came up. We talked about it with the New England Patriots. We talked about it when it comes to cheating at golf or darts or any sports you regulate yourself. And we talked about it when it comes to baseball and how far over the line PEDs are. I told you I've held pretty firmly that guys like Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Rafael Palmeiro should not be in the Hall of Fame. That if you cheated other people out of jobs, stats, strikes, what position, whatever it may be, and you ought to have at least cheated yourself out of a position in the Hall of Fame at some point. You said to me this yesterday, I saw it in the locker room, I saw steroids being done, and I saw veterans say to me, hey, Tex, you're not going to make it on milk and cookies alone in baseball. Who was that?
I can't say who it was, but there was a group of guys that just kind of said, hey, it is what it is. This is baseball. Tex, either kind of join us or you're not going to make it. Well, I think I can prove people wrong. And it's disappointing that you still have guys trying to take taking drugs and getting popped in baseball, because I can maybe see back in the day when you weren't tested. Now listen, drugs have always been illegal. They've always been wrong and outlawed in professional sports, but Major League Baseball never tested for it. So a bunch of guys are like, well, listen, everyone else is kind of doing it and they're not testing, so we're going to do it. But now to have kids, veterans, still doing it and cheating, just saying, looking at Major League Baseball, looking at the commissioner, looking at your teammates and your opponents and saying, I don't care about the rules, I'm still doing this. It's disappointing, and I agree with you. Those guys should not be in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people in baseball that think if you get busted taking steroids, you should never be able to play again. In the business world, if you get busted insider trading, you don't get to trade again. You're not allowed to do that. There are a lot of things that have gone on in sports that we've put a stop to, and I think this is one of them that I give Major League Baseball credit for stopping. But it was a big problem, man. It really was.
I mean, you were a rookie in 2003 on the Texas Rangers. That was a team where Rafael Palmeiro was 38 years old and hit 38 homers. You had Juan Gonzalez on that team. A-Rod was on that team, hit 47 home runs. I'm not going to ask you about guys. I know you don't want to name names, that kind of thing. But just what was the locker room like? Like you say in passing, it was being done in the locker room. Like, was it rampant? Was it, did it feel like everybody was doing it? What was the... And just out in the open? Give me the scene.
It was, guys talked about it almost daily, and you'd see it. I mean, you're 162 games. You see it all the time. I think just like in anything today, you have two sides. We live in a very polarized world where 50% of the people love you, 50% hate you, depending on the stance that you take. It was very similar in baseball. Now, I can't tell you that 50% of the guys were doing it, but there was a huge group of guys that, like me, that put their feet down and said, no, I'm not doing this stuff. And the other group of guys said, this is the way we're doing it, and hey, I don't care what you think. So it was like a 50-50 split.
Were those two camps almost socially split as well? Did one group look down on the other?
Absolutely, a lot of times.
Which way did that work? The clean guys looking down on the dirty guys, or was it the dirty guys looking down on the clean guys?
Well, it happened both ways, and it all depended on personalities. But you wouldn't get invited to, post-game parties or whatever if you weren't in one camp or the other.
Really?
Yeah, it happens. And that's the kind of stuff, when we talk about dynamics in a clubhouse, in a locker room, it matters. Those type of things really do matter.
Wow, PED's drawing the social lines in the locker rooms. I never thought about it that way. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. We've talked about it today, that dynamic in the locker room. There's a LaVar Ball tax on Lonzo Ball's future. Is there a LaVar Ball tax on the Lakers' future? Could it cost them LeBron?
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast. This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
The price for drafting Lonzo Ball may very well be LeBron James. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. When Magic Johnson selected Lonzo Ball number 2 overall in the 2017 NBA draft, he might have just closed the door on LeBron James coming to the Lakers. Now, I think if you've given Magic Johnson a do-over, I think if you gave the Los Angeles Lakers a do-over, they would pass on Lonzo Ball. I'm hanging out with Mark Teixeira all day today. All day yesterday as well. You can go download that podcast of the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio's app. Hit the watch tab or the listen tab, or go to iTunes and download that podcast. Tex, we both have agreed. You give Magic a do-over. You give the Lakers a do-over, and they pass. The first time we talked about this, it's because we said, look, number one, everybody would take a do-over to take Donovan Mitchell, number 1 overall. And the Lakers aren't alone on that front. The Philadelphia 76ers, I would imagine, would love a do-over. Markelle Fultz right now, for a whole different reason than Lonzo Ball, looks like a very unfortunate pick. Really sad, by the way. We talked about busts yesterday when it comes to Mark Appel and carrying that tag around. Whatever's going on with Markelle Fultz, I mean, were you there when Knobloch got the yips?
No, that was... Man,
what year was that?
I'm not that old, man.
But what year was it?
That was in like the early 2000s, maybe late 90s.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you can't make it to first base.
Man, you root for Fultz. This is it's a nerve issue. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's a nerve. It's a psychological thing. I think he's going to get better though. I actually feel like he's going to get better. I really do.
I hope it's true for him. But so look, every team would have given a do-over, every team would take Donovan Mitchell first overall. They'd probably do it with Lauri Markkanen as well in Chicago. He's playing wonderfully. I don't know. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is playing well. Dennis Smith Jr. is starting to play pretty well in Dallas. And there's a group of guys there that I believe that forget what's happening on the basketball floor. The LaVar Ball tax on Lonzo would force them to be taken over Lonzo in a do-over. The Lakers would be running Markkanen out there, Smith out there, Fox out there. And all of those, this is the key now, are better lures, better situations to say, hey, LeBron, we've got 2 max slots. We've got Kyle Kuzma. We've got Josh Hart. Look how Brandon Ingram is playing at the point forward. And, oh, don't you like our young guy? This time we'll call him De'Aaron Fox instead of Lonzo Ball. And now you don't have to go, don't worry about the old man. Don't worry about the crazy stuff coming
How can
from
you even
LaVar.
say don't worry about the old man?
But I'm saying you don't have to.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But like if I'm LeBron James, I don't touch Los Angeles. I don't even think about Los Angeles for a few reasons. That is number one, because I'm in twilight of my career. I want to win 1 or 2 championships with a bunch of guys that I like and not have all this off the court drama. LeBron James is going to bring drama with him everywhere because he's that type of guy. Whether you love him or you hate him, everyone says he's a great player, but he's a champion, but he'll never be Jordan. He'll never be blah, blah, blah. That's going to come with LeBron wherever he goes. If he goes to LA, imagine him going to LA and having LaVar Ball on the court yelling at him during the games, because that will happen. He will talk trash to LeBron James on the court. It would be ridiculous. And that's why he's not going to LA. He's not going to LA.
You said that, look, giving a do-over is one thing. Do-over is like second guesses. It's like regrets. Oh, if onlys. But life isn't only if onlys.
Yeah.
Life is ability to correct course. You can do things. Stephen A. Smith said this morning on First Take that sooner or later here, if this LaVar Ball nonsense keeps up, and by the way, we're talking about this because LaVar Ball has said if he didn't get all 3 boys on the Lakers, he's taking Lonzo off the Lakers. Stephen A. Smith said if this nonsense keeps up, the Lakers have to look at trading Lonzo.
If I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm thinking about moving Lonzo Ball. Not this season, of course. But if this young man don't learn to step up and handle his business and do whatever he can to distance himself from his daddy's comments publicly, particularly if I'm one of those players in uniform, I've got a raised eyebrow and I'm looking at Lonzo like, well, you going home and talking to your daddy about us? What exactly is it that you saying? Because I want to know. And if, by the way, your comments don't vibe with what he's saying, you that damn scared that you can't sit up there and say, that's my dad, that has nothing to do with what I feel. You can't do that? I need to hear that coming from you.
The thing is, you trade Lonzo, you're trading him for pennies on the dollar. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get all your do-over scenarios. You don't get Lauri Markkanen. You don't get Dennis Smith Jr. You sure don't get Donovan Mitchell. Whoever trades for Lonzo is going to be taking on the LaVar Ball tax. I don't know what you pay for Lonzo at this point. And the real shame of it is, Tex, I think Lonzo's a good player. I think he's a better player than you do. I think he's got real future. But what are you opportunity costing yourself out of? Because of the Lakers, it may just be that you're opportunity. Let me see if I can say that again as a verb, because it's not a real verb, but I'm making it. Opportunity costing yourself out of LeBron James.
Yeah, so this is the tough question for the Lakers is you don't have a do-over. It's almost like when a team signs a free agent to a huge contract and in the first year, in the first week of the season says, oh man, what did we just do? You don't get a do-over. It's now, where do we go from here? So for me, the Lakers have been very quiet about this. The Lakers have to put their foot down this offseason. You can't do it during the season. There's too much stuff, They're actually playing decent ball right now, so let them play the string out this year. This offseason, there's an ultimatum. And I'm not sure exactly what that ultimatum should be. It's, hey, you can't have your father at the games. You can't have, every time your father speaks up negatively about the Lakers, you get fined, whatever. They have to do something because you can't get the do-over. You're not going to get LeBron. You have to make the best out of a bad situation. And we have to figure out what they're going to do. The ball is in the Lakers' court. Again, bad pun there. The ball is in the Lakers' court because they have to deal with this problem.
Well, welcome back, viewers on ESPN News. Been watching the Frank Reich news conference being introduced as the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. It's Will Cain hanging out with Mark Teixeira all day today on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Let me listen to this, Mark. This is Mike Wise. He's a writer for The Undefeated, and he's describing the scenario that he thinks LeBron James will be looking for this summer when he's a free agent. See what this adds up to for you.
The only two things I know for this summer is this. Wherever LeBron James ends up, whether it's staying in Cleveland or elsewhere, he's not going to go to a place that he has to recruit guys to come there again, a la Miami, where it becomes team collusion. He's going to go to a place that is either on the cusp, and if you add LeBron James to the picture, you're an NBA finalist with a shot to win it all. Those are the only teams he's going to go to. And he's not going to go to a team without a tradition, established tradition. He's going to a place that's ready-made. And I think that anybody that comes to Cleveland or elsewhere with him has to know that his shelf life is probably 3 years as, the elite or next to elite player in this league.
If I add that up, he's going to someplace with a tradition established. He's going to some place that is on the cusp where the addition of LeBron James puts you automatically in contention for the NBA Finals. I have three names. I have the Houston Rockets, I have the Philadelphia 76ers, and I have the Los Angeles Lakers. If I add the LaVar Ball tax to the Los Angeles Lakers and I add the Western Conference tax to the Houston Rockets, I come back to the Philadelphia 76ers and make the most sense for LeBron James if he wants to be in real contention against the Golden State Warriors.
Agree 100%. This is a tough situation for LeBron because he shouldn't have left Cleveland the first time, probably shouldn't have gone back without a better plan the second time. I think I'm in the camp that says he actually should have taken over more control of the roster when he came back. He
would have had more control.
He obviously has. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that LeBron would like to do over. So now he's going to leave Cleveland again and go to somewhere else. He's going to go to Philly, right? Say he goes to Philly. There is going to be so much what ifs for LeBron no matter where he goes. And if he goes to Philly, he can win the Eastern Conference and have a chance at a title. If he goes to Houston, can you even win the Western Conference? I mean, probably, maybe, I don't know. But it's a very tough situation for LeBron to be in right now because the place that would have set up best for him is L.A. because of you win a championship in L.A.? Wow. Philly? I don't know if it's the same thing, winning a championship, right?
No, it just doesn't have LaVar Ball. But the Will Cain Show is reminding you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone on the ESPN app. I'll answer that question for you. Could you win the West with LeBron on Houston, and why LaVar Ball is costing the Lakers LeBron James? It's Mark Teixeira hanging out all day today on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Show.
I say something, everybody yells, you're a moron, you're stupid, you're a troll, you're hot-taking. A little time passes, everybody goes, I think that guy might have been onto something. That's awesome. So, okay, during the commercial break, we managed to tee off Mark Teixeira twice. You don't even know the second time, Rudy. I just turned to him and go, hey, what do you think about baseball and, like, the level of shape guys are keeping themselves in today? I mean, like, Bartolo Colon, and he just...
So this is the thing. It's like, dude, it's like everyone says baseball players have to be in shape. Look at Bartolo Colon. It's one guy. It's hilarious. Bartolo Colon is definitely out of shape. If you have a chance contract to make millions of dollars playing a sport, would you be out of shape or in shape? probably in shape, right? So that's why 98% of baseball players are in shape.
Well, hold on now. Okay, because I like to be the guy that pushes back. Let me ask you this. How many guys at the highest level does it come easy for? Because after you answer that, I'll answer to you how many guys keep them in shape. I think but see, Mark, and that's going to sound like I'm complimenting you in order to get in your good graces. I'm not, because I'm going to go back to you being insulted again in a second. You were not just playing at an elite level in sports, you were an elite player within the elite level, okay? Mark Teixeira, Hall of Famer one day. So I would imagine those guys like you, are all in shape, okay? Because you're both naturally talented. The game comes some level of ease to you, but that's not good enough. You layer on top of that hard work, focus, and practice. There are guys at the highest levels of almost every sport that it does come easy to.
Yep.
And they don't have to go that extra mile or whatever it is to put themselves at the next level.
Yep.
Those are the guys I would wonder, in baseball, are they keeping themselves in shape?
So I think what we're talking about is relatively speaking.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, not compared to us here in the control room.
1 to 1,000. There's the best shape guy that's in the best shape in baseball, and there's a guy that's in the least shape of baseball. So there's all ends of the spectrum. I would say, generally speaking, even the guys that are, quote, out of shape can still post up 150 games a year and bat 300 and hit 25 homers. So if that's, quote, out of shape, that's the thing that when people say, oh, Bartolo Colon, it's like, stop with Bartolo Colon. Yes, he's a big dude, but he's a pitcher too. We're talking about two different things.
Pitchers are out of shape.
Yeah. Pitchers are all out of shape.
Huge news for the Willisha out there listening. Now you can watch us whenever you want. Download the ESPN app and just tap on the Watch tab to watch full episodes of The Will Cain Show whenever and wherever. Okay, now, Cerruti, you make him mad. Go.
Yeah, I didn't mean to, Mark. I'm sorry. But I think this is true. There are teams in the NBA that if Lonzo Ball ends up being good, that would totally sacrifice their roster and sign his two brothers just to get him on their team. I don't doubt that for a second.
You think LaVar Ball's play to say you have to have Jello and Melo if you want Lonzo, and if the Lakers won't take them both, I'm going to take Lonzo off. You think his play is going to work with somebody?
Somebody will fall for the trap. Somebody's going to be in no man's land.
I have heard some silly things in my day. This is the silliest.
Mark,
think about this. At what point in the history of sports has there been a package deal for two brothers or father, son? You know what? I should have asked for my son to be the third baseman of the New York Yankees when I signed.
You weren't crazy enough to ask for it.
You want me? Put my 7-year-old on third base.
Wait. Did you hear that part? You were talking. He said the only difference is you didn't LaVar Ball style ask for it.
I should have asked for it, obviously.
Maybe somebody would say yes.
I want my dad. My dad's always wanted to play big leagues. I want you to sign my son and my father, and we will be the first 3 generations to play on the same team at the same time. Do you realize how crazy that is? If Lonzo Ball is really good, I'm ranting, boys. If Lonzo Ball is really good, then he will stand on his own and be signed by somebody that wants Lonzo Ball. His brothers have nothing to do with it. This is what LaVar Ball has done to us as a society. It's made us all dumber.
Okay, hold on.
We are all dumber because we have to listen to LaVar Ball talk.
Let me defend my guy Cerruti here for a minute. Let me see if I can do this for you, okay, Cerruti?
First off, I don't want this to happen. I don't want it. I'm not saying, hey, yeah, do your thing, LaVar. I just think that we're dumb enough.
You came in here and said it could happen, and I'm saying no, it couldn't.
Okay, how about this? Let me change the scenario, okay? Let me ask you this. If LeBron James had 2 inferior little brothers, okay? LeBron James had 2 brothers. Let's call them Lamon and
Bronzo
and DeBron. Lamon and DeBron James, right? They were just Xerox copies of LeBron James. They weren't good enough to be in.
A little faded. Yeah,
right. The hairline hadn't been fixed. Yeah. It's really crept back, and the game is all whack. But let's say Lamon and DeBron.
This is great.
James
I love it.
LeBron said, you got to take these 2 guys with me, Lakers, okay, or whoever else. And say it was decision time. Say it was peak LeBron to defend to defend my guy Cerruti, okay? Do you not think a team would have said, boy, that 11th and 12th spot, I think I could take those 2 James brothers?
I mean, in fantasy world, like
in real world.
In real
Do you
world,
think they say no?
No,
I think they would.
For
LeBron James,
any self-respecting person wouldn't ask for that. First of all, that's why it makes us all dumb. Just the fact that I have to talk about this, I'm a dumber person. I walked into this room at a certain level of IQ and intelligence. I am leaving this room today dumber. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
But you don't think they would sign those two brothers?
No.
I mean, the James brothers, not the Ball brothers.
Neither brothers.
They would sign. What'd I say? Lamond and DeBron? They would sign them. 11 to 12.
Yep.
To have
All right,
LeBron
here we
James.
go.
Mark Teixeira is in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, you didn't ask for your brothers. You didn't ask for your son. You didn't ask for your dad to sign with the Yankees. But what did you ask for besides $180 million when you signed with the New York Yankees? That's straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Man, the Cowboys are in a predicament. The Dallas Cowboys are in a predicament. What to do with Dez Bryant? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Mark Teixeira is my co-host all day, yesterday and today. Mark, we're just getting to know each other. Most of the Willish out there listening to the show knows this. I pretty much wear it on my sleeve on any program I've been on. I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys homer. Heck, I'm a homer for anything in Dallas. That's where I'm from. I'm from a small town outside of Dallas. I was a homer for you at one time, to be truthful. I think that's how sports work. I have a big philosophy on this, that you're born into your teams. Most of the time by geography, some of the time by your dad brainwashing you. That's what I'm doing to my kids in New York City. So it's hard to watch what looks like the beginning of the end for Dez Bryant in Dallas. Dez wears the 88. There's a long, good tradition of 88, from Drew Pearson to Michael Irvin to Dez Bryant. He is, at least in name and reputation and occasional performance, that 88 that Dallas has come to expect. The elite wide receiver, the guy who imposes his will on a defense. But by production, he's not that guy anymore. He had 800 yards of receiving while making $16 million. That doesn't work. He's a top 10 wide receiver in pay. He's not a top 10 wide receiver in production. And the Dallas Cowboys have a choice to make. They can cut Dez Bryant. They can ask him to take a pay cut. Now, I've said this several times, Mark, at high levels of employment, and I'd love your feedback on this, but I'm talking about CEO levels. I'm talking about elite athletes as well. Pay cuts are code for firings. Most of the time when somebody says, we want you to take a little haircut on your multi-million-dollar salary, don't worry. You're still going to make $15 million even though you were making $23. It means we need you to leave. We don't want you here for even $15. But I hope that's what can be accomplished with Dez and the Cowboys. Take half. We'll give you the other half as incentives. But that's asking Dez to give up money that's already in his pocket because he's not living up to his contract. Is that fair to expect from him?
I think it is. I mean, I think that's the nature of the NFL contract. You know, in Major League Baseball, you have guaranteed contracts. No one's ever been asked to take a pay cut. In the NFL, this happens all the time. It happens to multiple players every single year. And there are certain guys, even at the top of their game, that take pay cuts to allow that team a little bit of roster flexibility, maybe bringing that one extra player to go win a championship. Dez, agree 100%. Dez is not the guy that he was when he signed that contract, but very few players are. It's football. They're older. There's hits. Production drops. I think the Cowboys need Dez Bryant, but I also think the Cowboys need Dez Bryant to play for less money so they can go get some help, try to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is, hey, Dez, take a pay cut. We'd rather have you go. I think this is take a pay cut because we really need you to be paid for your performance, and we need to bring in somebody else that can help this team and win.
Let's find out how realistic this is. Let's ask ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano, who's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Dan, what do you think the Cowboys are going to ask of Dez Bryant here?
Yeah, I think they will go to him for a pay cut like you guys are talking about. I mean, look, right now Dez Bryant is scheduled to make $12.5 million in salary this year. That would be the third highest salary of any wide receiver in the league right now, behind Antonio Brown and Mike Evans, who's playing on the option, and is the second highest cap figure in the league behind Antonio Brown at $16.5 million. They just can't carry that. Guy hasn't had a 70-catch season or a 1,000-yard season since 2014, and some of that's been injuries, and some has just been, he's not as effective as he used to be. The nature of the NFL contract, as Mark just said, is that if you're not playing up to it in year 3 or 4, whenever you get there, they can alter it. It's not guaranteed, as we all know. So this is the position Dez finds himself in, and that's why back when he signed his contract, the issue was how much is he going to get guaranteed up front? When is he going to see that money? When we see these big contracts signed, that's what these guys always want to know. That's what's important, because by the time you get to where Dez is in his contract, inevitably, unless you're just killing it and 100% healthy, which almost none of them are, they're going to come to you and want some money back.
Dan, the question of whether or not Dez would take the pay cut, I think, is answered by the answer to this question. What could Dez get on the open market? If he were a free agent, what would he get? My question is to you. What do you get?
And that is a difficult question, because wide receivers, when you went out to free agency last year, didn't get the deals they were hoping to get. Remember, Alshon Jeffrey thought he'd go into free agency and get a big deal. He ended up taking a 1-year, $9 million deal with Philly plus another $5 million in incentives, and it worked out for him. He got signed and won the Super Bowl, et cetera. But the market for wide receivers last year, free agent wide receivers, wasn't that great. The track record of drafted wide receivers in recent years hurts the free agent market, because people are starting to think we can get a wide receiver in the first and second round that can help us just as much, and he'll be cheaper. So I don't know. I mean, depending on what kind of haircut the Cowboys are asking him to take. And remember, with the Cowboys, things get weird. You know, Jerry Jones very close with the players. It may be they never go to Dez Bryant. It may be that they go to ask him to take more than they should. You know, they make him a better offer than a lot of teams would in this case. But depending on what they're offering and what they're suggesting, he's going to have to seriously weigh that. And I'm not sure Dez Bryant at 29, coming off of 2 or 3 straight down years, the tape shows that he doesn't separate anymore. He's not even winning the 50-50 balls in the end zone like he used to. I just don't know what he's going to find out there that's going to make it worth him, you know, digging a line in the sand on the Cowboys.
Dan, what is Dez's relationship right now with the Cowboys, you know, with the team leadership, you know, with all of the players that are going to be, you know, hopefully trying to win a Super Bowl this year? I mean, does he have a good relationship with these guys? Do they want him back?
Yeah, I think they want him on the team. I just think it's a matter of matching up the money with, you know, with the production. And they have other things to do. They have to get Zach Martin, the guard, signed long term. Probably going to end up franchising DeMarcus Lawrence, their star pass rusher, although I'm sure they'd like to sign him long term if they could. So there's other priorities and other things they need the money in the cap room for. So I think that's a really key question. And if the relationship is good between him and management, and so far we have no reason to think that it's not, but you never know. If it is good, then maybe he's with the program and everybody gets to a solution that everybody's happy with. If not, if it becomes contentious, then of course that's when we see the breakups happen. So, you know, we'll find that out. In terms of the players, I mean, I know, you know, he and Dak Prescott get along well, and I think he's been happy with that transition. Nobody was happy with the year they had. They wanted to go back to the playoffs and wanted to win the Super Bowl, but I think Dez Bryant's okay mentally with where the Cowboys are right now. Once management starts coming to him with the pay cut, once we start talking about it on SportsCenter and on ESPN Radio, things like this filter back to the player. You wonder how that rattles around in his mind and what he thinks of it, and that the answer to that question will go a long way toward determining how this is resolved.
All right, ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks for the time, Dan.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, so I wanted to get to this. I wanted to ask you, I think, okay, number one, I think this informs, to some extent, the Dez Bryant situation. You know, dealing with contracts, dealing with free agency in your sport, when you had a decision to make. You only got to that bridge once, honestly, in your career, when you signed with the Yankees. I want to know what went through your mind, what weighed your decision, because it also informs, I think, honestly, where the kind of choice LeBron James has this summer. Mm-hmm. That straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Dance to your own beat this Valentine's Day. Purchase $699 or more at Hellsberg Diamonds and get a free Mega Blast waterproof speaker plus power-up charger. With built-in Amazon Alexa, it's a $339.98 value. Hellsberg quality, style, and selection makes it easy to find that perfect something, and this incredible speaker makes it a blast. So hurry into Hellsberg Diamonds and dance out with this unbeatable offer while supplies last. Why did Mark Teixeira choose the Yankees? And what does it tell us about LeBron James' decision? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Shane in Montana. First of all, Shane, where are you in Montana?
Great Falls, central Montana.
Okay, yeah. I lived outside Missoula for a while.
Yeah,
Love the
I lived in
great
Missoula
state of
for a while years ago too.
What's up, man?
Oh, everybody's ragging on Dez. He needs to be traded or he needs to take a pay cut. Everybody pulls up the last 3 years of stats. Nobody takes into account the last 3 years when his stats have been down. He's had Castle, Whedon, and Dak as his quarterbacks. 3 years prior to that, he had Romo. What did he have? 2012, he had almost 1,400 yards, 12 TDs. 13, he had just under 1,200 yards, just over 1,200 yards and 13 TDs. 2014, he had 1,320 yards and 16 TDs, led the league. Quarterback play has nothing to do with any of these declining stats.
Okay,
the whole wide receiving crew went down this year, including Witten with a career low, because who was his quarterback? Dak Prescott.
It's true. Cole Beasley was down. Terrence Williams was down. Dez Bryant was down. Thanks for the call, Shane. I would say two things in response to this. Number one, it's Dez that has to adjust to Dak. Dak is young, and Dak's going to try, and Dak's going to grow. But the fact that Dez was a certain kind of receiver with Romo doesn't mean he gets to be the same kind of receiver with Dak. Romo was a veteran. He was awesome. He could throw it into a tight window, and he could put it where Dez Bryant had the best chance to get it, where Dez Bryant honestly didn't have to separate from a defensive back. He could just reach up and grab it away. But you know what most receivers in the NFL job is to do? It's to separate. It's to run a route that you can separate and get open. That's not a Dak problem at that point. That becomes a Dez problem. So in other words, if you can only catch the ball on routes that an elite quarterback can fit into a tight window, it's your fault in the end. You're the guy that's got to get open for the young quarterback. That's
the fact of the matter is there are dozens of guys that work for the Cowboys that it's their job to evaluate Dez Bryant. Evaluate him on the field, off the field, separation, catching those 50-50 balls, and they are going to make the decision. Is this guy the same guy that we signed a few years ago? Is he an elite receiver? And if they put their heads together with the knowledge that they have and the statistics that they have and the video that they have and just being around the guy, because you just know. If you're a baller in any sport and you have a guy that is on a decline next to you, you know he's on a decline. You can feel it. They're going to put all that information together and they're going to make a decision. And I think they're going to come out to that decision that he's not as good as he used to be. And guess what? It's okay. Every player reaches a point in their career, it happened to me, where you're not as good as you used to be. Dez Bryant's not as good as he used to be, but guess what? He's still a good player. And I think the Cowboys should still have him on their team, but just for less money.
Well, one thing Dez is not going to do is he's not going to win a Dez versus Dak debate. He's not going to win a Dez versus Dak competition inside the Cowboys franchise. Dak is their future. Dez can hope to be part of their present. That's it. Doesn't matter who's better at their position. Doesn't even matter who's been better in the past 5 years. Dak hasn't been around that long. The past no longer matters. It's what the future and for Dez, the present looks like. And he has to try to win that. Not against Dez, not against Dak, but against every other receiver at a cheaper rate. All right, Mark Teixeira is in studio hanging out with me all day today on the Will Cain Show and ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We've talked about how much LaVar Ball could potentially affect, not just could, but will affect LeBron James' free agent decisions, specifically on whether or not he would be interested in the Los Angeles Lakers. All right, Tex, you were a free agent once, okay? When you signed with the New York Yankees. You're from Baltimore. Atlanta's your second home. You'd already been with the Braves once. When you could be anywhere, why did you choose the Yankees?
I chose the Yankees because, first of all, they made me as good or better an offer than everybody. So financially, check that box. Did they have a chance to win? Did they have a team that was on the cusp of being good? They'd missed the playoffs in 2008, but I knew they had a roster that could be good. Check the box. Was it a great organization that I knew was going to treat me well? Check the box. Is New York a really fun city when I enjoy living there? Check the box. So it checked every box. But also there's an emotional connection here. So every free agent, the baseball or basketball or football, whatever your sport is, you can play that sport anywhere and you can be successful anywhere. Emotionally for me, did I want to be a part of the greatest franchise in baseball history, have a chance to win a championship with the Yankees in New York, everything that came with it? The Yankees are just a different animal. And when you have a chance to play for the Yankees and win with the Yankees, I couldn't turn that down. Now, if they would have offered me 30% less than the Angels and the Red Sox and the Nationals and all the teams that had offered me contracts, Yeah, I probably would have said, hey, Yankees, sorry, guys, but you're not competitive.
Does it weigh at all? You go, you've got the history of the Yankees organization, but I end up being one of 50 famous New York Yankees versus if I go to the Angels, I could become the greatest name in the history of that franchise, or Rod Carew and guys like that. But whatever, pick your organization. The Orioles, I could become the face of that franchise for decades. In New York, I am one of dozens.
Well, and to me, I never had the ego to need that. I never needed that or wanted that. I was never a kind of look at me kind of guy. But I think, and this is true, if you are the man in a smaller market, you're still not as big as the last man on the Yankees, and that's kind of true. And you look at some of the guys that have been immortalized in New York. Scott Brocious gets a huge ovation whenever his name is. Or his picture is at Yankee Stadium. Hideki Matsui, he was the MVP of the 2009 World Series. He comes back and the place goes nuts. You have a bunch of guys that are one of 27 championships, but you win a championship with the Yankees, and that's special. And that's something that I'll kind of always take with me.
How much of an emotional component did going home and playing in? You were looking at both the Baltimore Orioles and the Washington Nationals. You're from Baltimore. Did that play much for you? I could go home.
In the opposite regard, I didn't want to play at home.
Really? Why?
I wanted to focus on playing baseball. I mean, when I would go play the Orioles as a visitor, you know how many people came out of the woodwork asking for tickets and wanted to go out after the game and this and that? I was so focused. This game's tough. I was so focused on playing the game, I didn't want all those outside distractions. So I was one of those guys that didn't want to go home and play because I didn't want those distractions.
Now, look, you're in an exclusive circle of professional athletes. I'm sure you guys all are on some kind of text chain or something like that. Do you think that organizations like the Lakers and the Cowboys in other sports carry that same draw that the Yankees did for you? You've got 30 seconds.
I think less today than even 9 years ago when I signed with the Yankees, because now with social media, now with the 7 different outlets that ESPN puts out every single day, everyone gets talked about. So I think it's less today, but it still matters. I absolutely think that the Yankees and the Lakers and those teams still matter.
Should we stop talking about LaVar Ball? Well, we're going to talk about it. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast. This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
All right, 2 big topics flying around in the world of sports today, and both within the world of basketball. They are Steve Kerr and LaVar Ball. Hanging out with Mark Teixeira in studio all day today on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Tex, I think we agree on both of these. Number one, we believe there is a LaVar Ball tax that is now being levied upon Lonzo Ball, that should the Lakers want to trade Lonzo, get out from underneath this LaVar Ball cloud, well, they'd have to pay a LaVar Ball tax. They'd have to sell Lonzo for pennies on the dollar to get any value out of him, knowing that the buyer's got to take this odious cloud hanging over whatever they get, right? We both think that given an option, Magic Johnson would take a redo. Heck yeah, he'd take Donovan Mitchell and Lauri Markkanen for sure, just on basketball reasons. But he'd probably take Dennis Smith Jr. and De'Aaron Fox just so he doesn't have to deal with LaVar Ball. Fair? That's how we both feel, and we're in agreement on LaVar Ball.
Agreed.
And second, how does anybody feel disrespected by Steve Kerr letting his players coach last night?
We had fun with it. We had fun with it for one day, and everyone's going to forget about this tomorrow because I think people are fake mad. I think really do.
You don't think they're really mad?
I don't think they're really mad. If you really think about what happened last night, this is a great coach on a great team having a little bit of fun, maybe pressing some buttons and getting his players to engage. He made a point after the game, said, I didn't feel like my voice was being heard. I felt like my players needed a different voice. And you see them on the court. They were engaged last night. Those guys, it was a 40-point blowout, and they were still talking to each other, talking about plays. How can we get better? That's what I want my team to do. So it's silly. I think that Steve Kerr has every right to do it. He did, and we won't talk about this after today.
You think this sounds face mad?
Here we go.
This
Let's hear it.
This is fake mad?
Let's hear it.
Listen.
When you're JT and you're 18 and 40, of course that's the response you're going to give to reporters after the game. It was disrespectful. Steve Kerr, do your job. You want to impress me? Have Draymond Green, who wasn't even playing last night, have him call the plays and draw up the plays Game 7, Western Conference Finals against the Rockets. Then I'll be impressed. Exactly. He did it because it was against the Phoenix Suns. He should be ashamed of himself for doing it.
There it is.
No, bam! He threw the ashamed. I love Stu, but Stu, come on, dude. Like, way overreacting, Stu. There are a lot of things that happen every day in sports that you can be really mad about. This isn't one of them. If you put in a list of all the things that happened yesterday in sports, this should not be the thing that really gets you fired up.
What do you think, Legs? Tim Legler on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Should Steve Kerr, was he disrespectful to Jay Triano and the Suns last night?
Well, I don't know about the disrespect part of it. That doesn't bother me as much as I just don't like the idea of it at all. I just think it takes away from the seriousness of professional sports.
Really?
Because I'm telling you right now, there's no way that you can maintain a serious tone and not make it silly almost to sit in a huddle and have one of your players and one of your teammates grab a dry erase board and start throwing up plays. That's not a serious tone in a professional basketball game. So, I'm one of these people that I don't buy that much into the disrespect thing. I don't believe in running up the score in pro sports. I believe that when you're on that level, you know what? If you're not good enough to stop a team, then that's on you. So I don't get my feelings hurt or believe in that kind of stuff. So I'm not as much concerned about Triano and the Suns being, disrespected by that as much as I am. I just don't think it's a line you should cross. I think it's too loosey-goosey when you start doing things like that. And it's a silliness that permeates the game that shouldn't be there.
Couldn't it be, just like Kerr said, he's looking for buttons to push, and in fact, what he's hoping, and I'm just trying to think through this and see his side of it, which I do, I guess. And he's saying, well, let me fully invest Draymond. Let me fully invest Andre Iguodala. Let me get them in on the project by sitting in a different role. Try on a different hat here. And if they're silly, by the way, jerk the hat back. But hopefully they reinvest in a different way.
I don't buy it because you're talking about one night in the 4 years that he's been coaching this team, and it won't happen again. So what is he really doing to create something that these guys can feel more empowered by? It was a blowout game. It was an opponent that they felt they could get away with it against, and Steve Kerr did it because of the circumstances of that moment, not because it's something that he feels like is going to somehow make them a better team down the road. That's a silly notion to even consider. There's nothing that went on in those huddles that's going to make them a better team. So that's the one argument I can't buy into even for a second. I didn't wake up today all fired up about it, but at the same time, it's something that is really kind of unheard of. And it's something that I think shouldn't really take place, and I don't see any long-term benefit from it at all. I think he did it because of the circumstances of this game, and it'll never happen again. He certainly would never do it in the playoff game. So how are you empowering your team in any way? Those guys aren't going to put in an offense during a timeout that you might find beneficial down the road.
So, Tim, you don't think there's any, and I hear what you're saying, but you don't think there is any value to having NBA players critically think about X's and O's? Because that's what they were doing.
They should be thinking critically about X's and O's every single day. I mean, that's what you do when you go to shoot around, you watch film, when you get ready to prepare for an opponent, when you read a scouting report, when you execute in a game. You should be thinking about that every day.
But, Tim, isn't that what an audible is in football? That's literally what an audible is.
No. This is entirely different. An audible in football is something that's a part of your offense that you practice every day. And a quarterback goes up there, makes a read. And by the way, it's your starting quarterback in the heat of a game, goes up, looks at defense, realizes that maybe the play that was called, the play that he wants to go to is a more appropriate call for this particular defense, but it's something that's already been talked about with him and the coaching staff. And it's one guy who is the leader of the team and probably the most important position in all of sports. To think that Andre Iguodala in 90 seconds or John Green is going to say it's going to have any impact beyond that exact moment is just ludicrous. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah. When I played high school basketball, my favorite practice of the year was captain's practice. I loved it because the captains got together and they ran practice, and the coach sat on the sidelines and said, as long as you guys play hard, you got practice today. and we became a tighter, closer team because of it. Now,
Tex,
this was a 45-point
blowout.
blowout. If you can have a little fun during a 45-point blowout, I think we should all relax because there are some serious things that happen that are really bad in sports that people don't care about. And this is I thought this was a lot of fun. And I do think that the Warriors had a good time with it, and there can actually be some value there.
You have to differentiate between something like a captain's practice, which I was part of as a captain of teams when I played and had them run by captains on teams. That is a good thing because I think there are times for a 2-hour practice when players, reach a point, you kind of are sick of hearing the coaches, and the coaches want to give the players the voice for that time. There is a benefit to that. This is not like that. This is in the moment, 90 seconds. There's going to be no benefit that's going to come out of that beyond that moment. It's an entirely different thing than something what you're talking about, which is something that's almost already orchestrated and part of what you do as a program, as opposed to spur the moment on the fly. Here, take dry erase board. Let's have some fun with this. I don't see anything beyond that. So for me, it's just not something that I believe in. And there's a reason it's only happened one time that we never talked about this, because the other coaches would never do it either.
Wow.
Good points. Good
it's
points,
the first
Tim.
time I've had real disagreement with Legs, and I have to defer to you. I mean, you're the one that sat on that bench. You're the one that knows how this plays.
Yeah, look, I want to be clear here. Like I said, I'm not. My blood pressure isn't up over this.
I got you.
I didn't wake up furious or irate, and I've got an incredible amount of respect for Steve Kerr. He and I battled against each other basically the same years. I mean, we go all the way back. Came out of school at the same time. I've known him forever. Ton of respect. Obviously, an incredible amount of success. He's a great coach. There's no doubt. But on this particular topic, if you ask my opinion, I'm saying no. I don't think that's a good thing to do, and I particularly don't see anything that carries over from what happened in that huddle.
No, I'm glad you gave me your opinion. I'm glad you're authentic. That's what I want. I mean, I don't want you to come on here and agree with me. This is good. I'm just a little surprised. But I'm going to have to take it under advisement now.
and what I like, Tim, is that you're coming at it from a player, and I agree from a player standpoint. Really, you know what? It's not. You probably shouldn't be doing this. From a fan standpoint, it's tough for me to get so upset.
Well, he's not, and Tim's not.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Right,
that's why I like it. That's why I like it, because from a fan standpoint, that's what we're talking to right now.
All right,
from
we got to run.
From a player standpoint, different. I like.
We got to run, Tim. That's good stuff, man. Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Anytime, guys.
Tim Legler on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line having a little debate with Mark Teixeira. I love it.
That was good.
All right, straight ahead. Let's get into the LaVar Ball topic. Here's the thing. All right, I hear you. I see your tweets. I've had the conversation with Tex, both on and off the air, with Stephen A. Smith, with Max Kellerman. Everybody talks about it. The question is, should we be talking about LaVar Ball? The answer might surprise you. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620. Mark Teixeira in studio on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Mark Teixeira hanging out with me all day, yesterday and today on the Will Cain Show. So LaVar Ball is back in the news. This time it's because he says this to a Lithuanian reporter. He says, I want all three of my boys to play for the Lakers. But if that does not happen, I'm going to tell you the story of what's going to happen first. If they don't take Jello this year, his youngest, I'll bring Jello back here to Lithuania to play with Melo for 2 years. Lonzo will be in his third year, and I will let every NBA team know that Lonzo's not going to re-sign with the Lakers, but will go to any team that will take all my three boys. That's my plan. Boil that down. If you don't take all three boys, you don't get Lonzo. That includes the Lakers or anyone else. Now, you and I have talked about today the LaVar Ball tax on Lonzo's career on the Los Angeles Lakers. And so both of us have said the Lakers would take a redo if they could get a redo on Lonzo Ball because of the LaVar Ball tax. But that's led me to say, you're just talking about LaVar Ball again, man, and he's playing you like a fiddle, and he gets what he wants. And Jalen Rose said that this morning on First Take. In fact, he blamed First Take for LaVar Ball.
The only thing that we care about as it relates to LaVar Ball is Lonzo Ball playing really well for the Los Angeles Lakers. When he's not relevant, LaVar won't be relevant. And you know who I blame? You guys, the media. We put microphones in front of his face. We ran with every comment. Y'all got him in L.A. doing that dance, coming all on set, pumping up the big baller brand. And I must admit, I do love LaVar Ball. As somebody that grew up without a dad, I'm actually filing for papers so that he can adopt me and then I can get a piece of the big baller brand stock. But I blame you guys, the media. He got famous on First Take. That's why I like to come on this show, so I can get famous too.
Well, hold on, just before we move on, Jalen, my friend Jalen, there's no you guys, the media. You are the media, Jalen.
There are contradictions throughout that entire spiel.
You are too, by the way, now. You are the media.
I am the media.
What do you think? Are we doing too much LaVar Ball?
If it is ESPN, if you went to LaVar Ball and literally stuck a microphone in his face, I'd be like, Will, dude, what are you doing?
Okay.
We are just reacting to things that are happening. This is a train wreck. People watch whether they like it or not, or they admit it or not. People watch train wrecks. That's why there's rubbernecking on highways. When there's a crash, you kind of look to the side, say, "Oh, what happened there? Let me see that twisted metal." It's sickening, but we do it as society. Part of ESPN's job is to cover the news, is to cover the news of the day. This crazy, insane statement is news. And so I'm not one of those guys that's going to say, you media, you guys are creating this. No, this is a thing. LaVar Ball being out there and saying these things, he could just tweet it, right? He could just do it on his own, and it's still going to get out there. So I don't blame the media. I think what I am saying here, if I want to cover LaVar Ball, I'm not going to give him props for big baller brand. I'm not going to say you did a great job with your sons. I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say this is a toxic situation. And who's going to stop this? Are the Lakers going to stop this? Is Lonzo going to stop this? So me talking about LaVar Ball is talking about who is going to stop this train wreck from happening, because it is happening in front of our eyes.
Chad Kosick on Twitter agrees with you, Tex. He says, absolutely, you should keep talking about LaVar. People seem to complain that everyone's talking about him, but what people love to do more than anything else is complain. And you're sure to continue to have content so long as he keeps talking. That's pretty good, Chad. Thanks for sending that on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Cerruti, you can hook him up with a gift card from 1-800-Flowers.com, DM him one. He agrees with you, Tex. And I agree in part with what you're saying. Maybe we're on the same page. It's part of the story, though. It's true. Our job in the media is often to give the public what it wants. We're ratings driven. We know what resonates with an audience because we have the numbers. We see what topics, we see what times, we see what shows rate and resonate with the audience. And you can complain and you can say you don't like it, but the truth lies in the numbers. You watch, you listen, and you read. From ESPN.com to ESPN Radio to First Take, you read about LaVar Ball. Now, does that make it right? Not necessarily. Cerruti, you on several occasions have said, just because candy is there for people to eat and they eat it doesn't mean you should sell it. Drugs. People love to snort coke or shoot heroin. That doesn't make the drug dealer right because there's a market for it. And you equate LaVar Ball to heroin, I guess, right?
Well, my point was just why aren't we above this? At what point do we need to be the leaders in society and be like, hey, we should stop doing this. This is making everyone dumber.
And here's my response, and this is the complete part of the picture that I feel like, and actually you hinted at this, Tex. So, okay, we entertain. Okay, we give people information that we know that they want to hear and talk about. But there's something more than that. It's actually relevant. It's not just ratings. It's not just revenue. It's not just rubbernecking. The fourth R is it is relevant.
Bingo.
This is news.
It is relevant. This is why it's relevant. We touched on many points today. It is relevant because when LeBron James doesn't go to the Lakers, one of the reasons, there might be 5 reasons, one of the reasons will be the train wreck of LaVar Ball. When the Lakers have to trade Lonzo for under market, it's going to be because of LaVar. When the Lakers don't win a championship in the, quote, Lonzo Ball era, part of it's going to be because no one wants to go play in the distractions of LaVar. It is extremely relevant. Whether we like it or not, It is extremely relevant to the NBA and to decisions that will be made over the next few years.
Absolutely. And that's LaVar Ball's fault, not First Take's fault, Jalen. It's not the person that tells you what's going on. They're not the problem. The original source is the problem. Okay, put a pin in this because I'm starting to get wound up. I've got a little bit to go here, some steam to blow off. Because let me tell you something. We have a fundamental disagreement on what the role of is of both the messenger and the listener. My job and your job. Anybody that listens to my show, anybody that listens as part of the militia, I'm going to tell you something. We're not here to talk about less. We're here to talk about more, but do it in the right way. Like you just hinted at, Tex, you talked about because you were right on that spot. How do you talk about it? That's what matters. That's straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is Will Cain.
People say to me all the time on social media, me and my friends, we all talk about how much we hate LaVar Ball. You and your friends talk about how much you don't like hearing about LaVar Ball? You get that, right? Okay, starting to get warmed up here, Tex. You're going to have to let me...
Yep, I'm going to give you some space here, Will.
Let this pony run a little bit. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hanging out with Mark Teixeira all day today. Want to get to a little bit of Yankee stuff here towards the end of the hour with Goose Gossage going off on the Yankees.
Goose.
Text in on that.
Talk about crazy.
Guys, there's only one day left till Valentine's. If you're still looking for the perfect gift, 100flowers.com is here for you with beautiful bouquets starting at just $29.99. To order, go to 100flowers.com/ESPN. Here's the thing. Everybody's saying, okay, stop talking about LaVar Ball. You created LaVar Ball. You are LaVar Ball, ESPN. Just played sound from Jalen Rose on First Take today, blaming First Take for the creation of LaVar Ball. Here's the thing. I don't know how you grew up. I don't know how you grew up, Tex. I don't know how those of you listening in your car right now driving down the road grew up. I don't know if every time something unpleasant came up, your family shut it down. I don't know when there were hard conversations if your family or your friends ran from them. All I'm going to tell you is, that's not the way I was raised. When we had a problem, we said our problems. When you had a disagreement, we said our disagreements. When you were sitting at the dinner table and you had an idea, my dad said that's ridiculous. And then you defended that idea. When I had something that I thought was ridiculous, like my dad told me McDonald's wasn't the best hamburger in the world, he was right. I thought it was ridiculous at the time. I was 13. I had to defend that idea. The point is this. You talk about more. You don't talk about less. You don't pretend LaVar Ball doesn't exist. He's relevant. He's affecting the most famous franchise in NBA who drafted a player number 2 overall to be their franchise cornerstone. And now he's talking about jerking him away if they don't take his 2 brothers to come along and play with him. That matters. That matters. And you don't, by ignoring it, you don't make it go away. You know how you make it go away? By talking about it and doing, Mark, exactly what you said. You talk about it honestly, authentically. You don't filter it. You don't do PC stuff. You don't get worried about what people call you. You don't worry about whether or not LaVar Ball is going to be your buddy or come on your program again. So you say this. You know what? LaVar Ball is a fraud. Big Baller Brand, it's a fraud. They sell you the wrong shoes that you order. They overcharge you. Bubba called him or looked into their Better Business Bureau stuff. When you get the wrong product, they call you a small baller. It's a fraud, man. And he is a fraud. He's a WWE hype man for 2 brothers that he's exploiting the best brother for. He's using Lonzo to get 2 other guys into the NBA on the team he wants. And as you pointed out, Tex, he's exploiting Lonzo for his own personal gain.
And that's the sad thing for me, is that Lonzo Ball has a bright future in the NBA. It's tough enough to play in the NBA when everything else is good, everything else is cool. You add this on, talk about exploiting your son. I mean, how sad is that? Like, this is sad, and this is why I'm glad we're talking about it today, because who was going to put a stop to this? Not a stop to the media covering it, because the media is going to continue to cover things that are newsworthy. O.J. Simpson was a thing for like 3 straight years and got ratings through the roof. And we're talking about a double murder. It was a terrible thing. Everybody covered it and everybody watched it for years and years and years. Somebody has to stop LaVar Ball. Is it going to be Lonzo finally going to step up and say, Dad, cool it. Let me go play. Leave my teammates alone. Leave my coach alone. Leave my brothers out of this. Let me play ball. Are the Lakers finally going to stand up and say enough is enough? the tax is too much. This is too much of a problem for us. You're out. Or is the NBA, I mean, literally, can the NBA come in and just put a kibosh on it?
Nah.
Somebody has.
No, NBA can't do that, I don't think. But
okay. Then
I think the answer is the first one you get. Okay. I think
who is going to put a stop to this?
The only person that can put a stop to it is Lonzo Ball. But I'll tell you this, I know who can't put a stop to it, and that's people that want to put their fingers in their ears and go, no, and pretend like it doesn't exist.
That doesn't help.
People that want to ignore LaVar Ball. Bubba, I want you to play this. We have a fundamental disagreement on what our job here is and what we talk about and how we talk about it. Now, I've never met him, and I have a ton of respect for Michael Wilbon, but he said this on PTI back in October. I want you to listen to this because I just simply disagree. Play it, Bubba.
Let me just go off on a second on LaVar Ball and all the networks, including this one, who put a microphone in front of him for minutes at a time. That's editorial malpractice. That shouldn't happen, okay? Because we don't need to know what LaVar Ball says anymore. And
okay, hold on. Pause it right there, Bubba. I think it would be malpractice not to hear what LaVar Ball has to say. He's the highly influential father of the second pick in the NBA draft. This problem exists for the Lakers, whether or not this guy has a mic in his mouth, in front of his mouth, or not. Yep. The Lakers have a problem whether or not we cover it or not.
So I respect Wilbon, but he's wrong here, and this is why he's wrong. We as a society tend to try to sweep our problems under the rug, hoping that they'll go away. Guess what? They don't go away. What Michael Wilbon's basically saying is media, ESPN, whoever, just sweep this guy under the rug. Maybe he'll go away. He's not going away.
Right.
He's getting stronger, and whether it's
he thinks we're making him stronger.
Well, but
that's
you know what?
Thinks.
But you know what? You know what the problem here is that again, if nobody stops him, it's not going to be because the media didn't say, me included, didn't say somebody stop him. Well, see, it's going to be because he's been swept under the rug, and no one thinks this is an issue.
I just
it's
think
an issue.
I honestly think you're just going one step too far. This is all I mean.
Okay.
It's not my job to stop LaVar Ball. My job, my only job, is to tell the truth. That's it.
And the truth is LaVar Ball needs to be stopped.
Now, well, if the truth then opens Lonzo's eyes or the Lakers' eyes, that's
and
fine.
That's what I'm saying.
But you don't open eyes. You can't see even with open eyes in the dark.
Yep.
And so pretending it doesn't exist doesn't help. Keep playing it, Bubba.
We don't need to know what LaVar Ball says anymore. And what he's doing, Tony, his behavior. What responsible father puts a target on his child?
None.
I find what LaVar Ball does now loathsome at times. He's not the only father who's raised good kids or talented kids. And to see this, and particularly for me, a father, for a black father to do this, to put his child in professional harm's way, this incredible target that now people in the league hate your kid because you behave like a self-absorbed jerk. And networks like ours help him. I find it all loathsome. It's worse than reality TV.
That was the end of it, right, Bubba? Here's the thing. Does it help? Again, the job is to tell the truth. Does sunlight disinfect or does he make the plant grow? You know, by covering LaVar Ball, are we helping him? Because that's how Wilbon sees it. My thought is by covering him, you simply shine light.
Bring it to light.
And then what happens, happens.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I love PTI. I think PTI is a great show. Half of the things on PTI are covering controversial issues. You know, Goose Gossage rips Brian Cashman. That was covered on PTI today.
Right.
I mean, it's a thing. It's a nasty thing that Goose Gossage said about Brian Cashman. It was covered. So, like, I get it. You don't want to give this guy more strength and a bigger platform. But in 2018, he's got a platform, dude.
Exactly.
Social media allows you. I can take my cell phone and do a video and press tweet, and the world can see me being a clown.
Will you?
It does. I can. You want me to?
I love it.
But my point is, we don't need ESPN or any of the other networks to put a camera or a microphone in front of LaVar Ball.
Right.
He can do it on his own. That's a bad argument.
The Will Cain Show is reminding that you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. You brought up Goose Gossage. You brought up the controversy. You brought up the tension with the Yankees. Let's talk about it. It's the Will Cain Show with Mark Teixeira on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Goose Gossage is causing some problems in New York Yankee land. By the way, right after our show here, in about 13 minutes, you want to hang out. You don't want to miss Spain and Fitz. They're going to tell you why this Steve Kerr thing, the one we've been talking about today, the one we got into a big debate with Tim Legler about earlier in the show. Both you and I disagreed with Tim Legler on whether or not Kerr was making a mistake letting his players coach a game. You should go download the podcast, by the way. Go to iTunes, download it at Apple or on the Listen tab on the ESPN app, The Will Cain Show. But is this Spain or Fitz? This is Fitz. Fitz says this Steve Kerr thing is further proof that the NBA regular season is a joke. Man, I don't know how I ended up on an island, but I got Mark Teixeira with me.
It's a joke?
So I'm taking from this that Fitz is showing that the regular season doesn't matter. And so you got Stugotz, Fitz, and Tim Legler on one island, and I'm over here on the other island with Teixeira. You know, I'll be all right. Okay. Back to baseball, okay? Here's what's going on. You actually know firsthand what's going on here. So the Yankees invite former players to come to spring training, right? To kind of act as what, like player coaches, advisors, consultants?
All the above. Hang around, talk shop with the guys, hit fungos and throw batting practice and kind of be a part of the history of the New York Yankees because it's a pretty special organization, obviously.
Okay, and you're one of the guys that's been invited this year.
I'm coming back. I'm going back for 4 or 5 days. Aaron Boone asked me to come back, and so, I'm going to have fun.
You, Tino Martinez,
Alfonso Soriano, Ron Guidry, Nick Swisher. Tino. Yeah, you said Tino.
Yep.
Bunch of good guys.
But not Goose Gossage.
Not Goose.
Now, in the past, Goose has been invited
for
to
years,
this, right?
For years.
Every year?
Every year I was with the Yankees.
Okay, so it was almost like a, open the door once and it goes.
It was kind of his job. That's the thing here. It was kind of Goose's job. It was his thing.
Okay, all right. Well, he didn't get the invite this year, and this is what he's had to say. I don't like General Manager Brian Cashman, he said in a phone interview with New Jersey Advanced Media. That's all. It's not a secret. He said that Cashman would prefer to have a nerd in a uniform as manager. He also questioned Cashman's leadership. If he had any balls, he'd do what he wants to do. He doesn't think he needs baseball people around. Maybe he's right. The way the game is being run today, maybe you don't. The game is so different. Like I said, real baseball guys for years made a career out of baseball. You're not a coach anymore. You have to be their best friend. He goes on, man. Like you said to me a minute ago, there's a lot. What's this? I didn't get the call. Either way, there's no respect for older players. There's no respect for anybody who has any real baseball knowledge. You're going.
Okay, yeah. So Goose is wrong on so many levels, and this has been building up for a few years. And we all liked Goose, but at a certain point in time a few years ago, he was battling. He was fighting a fight that had already been won. The old school, new school fight has already been won by the new school guys. And the best new school guys, like Brian Cashman and Theo Epstein, they're really smart, quote, baseball guys. They're on the field, grizzled scouts. The guy has been watching the game for 50 years. And they take their analytics guys and they put them in a room together and they say, find me the best team possible. So when Goose says Brian Cashman doesn't like baseball guys, he's got no respect for older players, he would rather have a nerd in a uniform to be the manager. Aaron Boone is the manager of the Yankees. He's one of the most well-respected baseball minds of our generation. So Cashman is doing what is best for his team. And the reason that Goose was not invited this year was because he became a big distraction that the Yankees didn't need anymore.
Tell me about that. Well, how was he a distraction?
For 3 years in a row now, the annual rite of spring training, and you guys can look it up on the internet and read all the articles, the annual rite of spring training is Goose Gossage's rant on modern baseball. And it just got to be too much. Not only is it offensive to the players and the front office that are actually there, but it's not becoming of the Yankees. You know, when you put on the pinstripes, and George Steinbrenner said this years ago, we expect more out of you and you should expect more out of yourself. So when you go on these rants and drop F-bombs and say all these terrible things about current players and current Yankees, he's talking bad about Mariano Rivera. I mean, find the amount of people that have actually said bad things about Mariano Rivera. It's a very short list.
What did he say, that he only pitched one inning?
And pitched one inning, and you can't even compare Mo to me because I pitched multiple innings. It's like, Goose, stop. And it creates a little bit of a gap between older players and younger players because some of the older players, not all of them, but some of them are still fighting that fight.
Man, we only have like 2 minutes left, and I've been wanting to talk to you about this all day. Hey, why there's so many big-name free agents still sitting on the market? You look at the clock, you know how much time you have, but why so many big-name free agents still unsigned in baseball?
Well, one of the reasons is the new school, kind of looks at your career and says, well, the numbers will say that nowadays in 2018, at 32 years old, you kind of start falling off. And it happened to me. I had a wall at 32. I had injuries every year. Blew out my calf, blew out my
PEDs,
wrist.
You're saying 32 without PEDs.
So exactly. That's the thing. The old contracts were signed because they saw the Barry Bonds type players getting better at 32. Oh, look at Barry Bonds. Look at 32 to 40. He hit 40 home runs a year and hit 300. So contracts were given, mine included. I'll be one of the first to say that my contract was given to me with the hope that he would still be good at 34, 35, 36. Now the numbers are showing that without steroids, it's very difficult to be good into your mid to late 30s. And that's why these guys are not getting